Next, from Springfield, we talk with Shelia Romano, director of the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. The day before this interview, the state decided to close an institution in Jacksonville that cared for the developmentally disabled. We'll hear how the Quinn administration is looking to change the way the developmentally disabled are cared for and how that will affect the state's budget. This runs about 10 minutes.
Shelia Romano, you're the director of the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. We're here at a conference in Springfield. Tell us, what is this conference and what is the purpose?
The conference is called Speak Up and Speak Out, and it's our 7th annual Speak Up and Speak Out conference. The main audience that we invite here are people with developmental disabilities throughout the Illinois system. And we want to hear what they want and what they need in life and to have their voices heard.
You know, it's been interesting to me as we were taping a portion of the conference to hear the Q&A from those with developmental disabilities and how they were interested in a variety of public policy issues, from not living in institutions to having dental care. I think some people might be surprised at the degree to which they're following these issues. And as we tape this, we just had the one Jacksonville center decided yesterday, but it closed. First of all, I mean, should anyone be surprised that these clients are involved with the issues? And let's start there.
Oh, I am so proud of the folks at this conference. The public policy issues affect their lives, and so they are the main people we should be talking to see what they want in their lives. As I said, this is our 7th year. I am really, really pleased that each year I see more and more individualized advocacy as it relates to the public policy issues. So sometimes they may just talk about what they want as an individual, and sometimes they'll see a problem with the system and say, how do we fix the system for everybody throughout Illinois?
And how much do policymakers, such as yourself and others who are working in the state on this issue, actually listen to them?
Well, for me, that's the main voice to listen to. To me, I see the main customers as people with developmental disabilities and the family members. But as a Council on Developmental Disabilities, that would make sense. I think if you go to the legislature, I think the individual voice is even more important than my voice. I love to go and testify, that's a part of my job, but I think when they hear from the end user, that is a much more powerful voice than my own.
Now, again, as we taped this yesterday, there was a decision by the state to close down the Jacksonville Center that houses developmentally disabled. Let's give us an overview of where we stand. Why is that being closed down? How many other institutions are there, and what's the trend as far as care for the developmentally disabled?
Illinois ranks almost dead last in supporting with developmental disabilities in the community. We don't see an institution as a part of the community. And so right now Illinois does have 8 institutions, including Jacksonville, that will be closed, as you said. That will leave 7 remaining institutions. I'm pleased to work with Governor Quinn and his rebalancing initiative to really make sure we support people in the communities with the individualized needs that they need and deserve.
Cost, everyone knows Illinois is in a severe financial crisis. What is the financial cost of moving these people to the state? What's the cost to the state, I should say, of moving them from the institutions to, say, group homes?
You'll see numbers all over the board, but I think it is safe to say that it costs about half to it costs a little bit more than half to support people in the community on the aggregate. There are individuals who will have higher cost needs, just as there are individuals being served in the institutions right now that have lower cost needs, but we're paying a whole lot for them. I asked another question in the cost. I want to stress in the aggregate is the most important piece that we are looking at.
All right, so to emphasize that, it's not quite half as much, but it's almost half as much to put them in a group home as it is in the institutions that they've been in.
That's correct. And what we've also found is the quality of life then improves significantly once people do move into the community. We also know that there's a lot of resistance from family members and from union workers who are there and don't want to see the institutions closed. But what we've also seen in national studies who have moved in this direction is that parents tend to then be happier with the quality of life after. I have one wonderful story that I heard of. I have not talked to the gentleman myself, but he moved out of Jacksonville. His mother lives in the northern suburbs. He moved to a western suburb. Mother is 90 years old and hadn't seen him in many years, but would write letters. And now that they're living closer together, staff are bringing them together. I'm hearing once and twice a week. And so that's just by having mom back get involved in the life in that way, right there is a wonderful improved quality of life.
We heard a couple of people in the audience ask that, or bring up that they would like to move into an apartment. To what extent is that possible, and would the state work to help facilitate that?
Oh, I believe that's the direction the state should be going. And again, I want to stress with the appropriate supports. Right now, we tend to put people into slots, that there might be a group home that has a slot open, and so that's where they go to, rather than saying, what community do you want to live? Who do you want to live with, if you want to live with anybody at all? And so I definitely am pushing for that. Oh, earlier you asked about the budget crisis, and we're doing this for the budget crisis. At the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities, we've been advocating for this for years. I've been here for 13 years. We've been doing that. My predecessors have been advocating for this.
When you say this, what do you mean?
Moving people from institutions into the community. And so although the budget crisis was an opportunity for us to really address this dialogue, I would say we are not doing it just because of the budget crisis, but that many of us have been asking for this for a very long time, of supporting people in the community.
When one of the cheers that went up, it was interesting, and it had to do with, if I understood it right, and sometimes it's hard to hear, but not using IQs. Talk to us about that, but also, I may ask you to use an IQ. When we talk about the developmentally disabled, what actually are we referring to?
Well, to complicate matters even more, there's a state definition for the developmentally disabled, and there's a federal definition for people with developmental disabilities. And so the state definition does have an IQ level in there at 70. But there are often times that people might have a higher IQ, but have maladaptive behaviors. I don't like that word, but they might have additional areas of their life that they need additional supports. Where in the federal definition for developmental disabilities, it's more looking at the functional levels of what you need and where you need more supports. And so for the federal definition, there is no IQ in there. So that is something that is state by state can make that determination.
What is the state level on the IQ, do you know?
Right now it's currently at 70.
So 70 or below, and you're developmentally disabled.
That is correct, and to have acquired that before the age of 18. So you might be a person who is in a car accident as an adult and lose some of your functioning, but if you acquired as an adult, that would not be a person with a developmental disability.
And so we talked about the long term is to deinstitutionalize, put them either in the group homes or for those who would be qualified perhaps in their own apartment, to where they could be providing more or less for themselves, although I think the state would still have a function in helping to support them. Is that right?
Absolutely. I think that we need to be looking at each individual and their wants, desires, and needs, and what would be appropriate for us as a state to do. And so, for example, there may be people with some behavioral challenges that we wouldn't want to place 4, 5, 6 people with behavioral challenges in a group home. That would be looking to set them up for more failure. So looking at their individual needs and how to best support them. Is it with one other person? Is it just with a host family situation? I think we need to start thinking from Illinois standards outside of the box, but from national standards, this is the trend of how the developmental disability system is moving forward.
And then before we close out, what is the longer term trend? And within that, do we have enough money as a state to continue to fund the services that we're doing? And to what extent do we, or will we, be anticipating the population in the next 10 to 20 years? Are we providing for the care of those people as they come up?
First, let me address do we have enough money? I told you that right now how we spend our money is in the large congregate settings that tend to cost much more money. So there we're serving a smaller population with the higher cost. But also on the other end, do not spend the national average in supporting people in the developmental disability system. So we need to more efficiently spend the money that we have, but at the same time increase some of the money so we at least get to the national average. I think we're moving in that direction. One thing that did not come up too much today was the LIGUS a class action lawsuit. Some of the Liggett class action members will be here later this afternoon. There we will be, we are mandated by a court order to be court settlement, to be adding new service delivery into the system, both by getting people off of the waiting list and moving people out of some of the private institutions around the state if they choose to move out of a private institution. I think, Terry, as you were covering today, you saw a woman who is very passionate about wanting to move out of one of those private institutions, and she kept coming up to the stage to make sure her voice was heard over and over, that it one time wasn't enough for her to say that's what she wanted. And so we will do whatever we can to support her, to have her needs met, appropriately met.
Well, Shelia Romano, I know there's a lot more issues, but maybe we can visit again and talk about some of those, but we appreciate you joining us.
Terry, thank you very much, and thank you for bringing light to these issues. One of the things I'd like to really stress is that we did have 500 people here, the majority of people with developmental disabilities, speaking about what's important to their lives, and I think all of us need to be listening to what they have to communicate to us.
Thank you.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.